It's good to see you. I'm Jerrel. I develop games for a living. Today I'm going to discuss a topic that was requested by one of my viewers here at the channel. So this request comes from Jeff Barroso, who asks, could you please analyze the Digimon Time Strangers trailers? Now, I actually have not seen the Digimon Time Strangers trailers. This is my first time seeing these. This summer, I spent time outside of my office and I was doing ranch hand work and exploring the mountains and the old gold rush areas of California and hanging out at saloons, meeting strangers and tuning saloon pianos and just going on adventures and meeting people and making friends. So I actually missed out on this stuff. I'm catching up now. So in today's video, we will take a look at two trailers, the announcement and some about the gameplay, and then we'll just look at a few scenes from a longer gameplay video. So we'll discuss some things that I find interesting, and I'll be sharing my thoughts and analysis on this, not just as a game, but from a technical standpoint, the visuals, and of course we're going to compare it to Pokemon a bit, because they are both monster catching, monster raising, and battling games, and they occupy very different spaces. Now, what is interesting and also a little frustrating is that this game looks fantastic. This is a gorgeous game. It looks brilliant, and you aren't going to play it. You won't play this game. I know you won't. And I know you won't because I've seen you, and I know you. You've never played a Digimon game, and you never will, even though you've seen Digimon all over the place. You will continue to complain about how Pokemon games are all the same, and how the graphics are bad and the gameplay is simple, and the story is bad, even though Digimon is right there. It's right within your grasp. All you need to do is take one step forward, reach, and grab it. But you won't. You won't play Digimon. You won't play it today, or tomorrow, or the day after. You want to know how I know? Because it would be good for you. Because it's what you want, and it's what you need. But people don't do what they need. People won't do what's good for them. That's just how people are. They self-destruct, and they hurt themselves, and they won't do what's good for them. One day, you're going to find yourself at the bottom of a whiskey bottle, waking up in the rusted-out trailer on a stranger's ranch property out on Highway 120 in the loneliest corner of California, and you're gonna wonder how the hell you got there and when it all went wrong. And it won't hit you until it's far, far too late. You've broken your mother's heart time and time again with your half-hearted promises that she saw right through. You let your father down because you were not there when he needed you, when you left him all alone on that fishing trip, and you didn't show up without even saying a word. You've ruined every friendship you've ever had through sheer negligence. And somewhere deep down inside, you know you've grown too old, and it's too late for you to ever forge another meaningful relationship, a genuine friendship ever again. You will continue to grow older, more alone, more broken, and one day far from now, you'll contemplate whether the pain of living is even worth it anymore. I know this because I've seen you. I know you, and you don't even know yourself. And you'll continue to complain about how bad Pokemon is, and you still won't even play a single Digimon game. So Digimon Time Story Stranger is an RPG from Bandai Namco, releasing October 3rd, 2025 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, S, and Steam. And that's pretty soon, so we have a lot to look forward to when it comes to this game. First, we're going to take a look at the announcement trailer, then the system trailer, and then of course we'll take a look at some snippets from some gameplay. This game looks really fantastic. I'm very excited to share this with you. I'm very much looking forward to this game. So again, a huge thanks to Jeff Barroso, who asked me to take a look at Digimon Time Story Stranger. This looks really great. Okay, let's get started on that trailer. The story seems pretty interesting here. Already, it's clear that these stories are darker and more mature than the stories we see in Pokemon, and I do enjoy this stylized visuals here when it comes to the story. We get a look at what the visuals overall look like, and we are told the story is about characters that are sent back in time to prevent a terrible disaster. It looks like the world was destroyed, and so characters are sent back in time to try to avoid that. I actually kind of like this creepy, low detail density for these NPCs in the background. It makes it feel like an anime. You know how in some anime, in the background characters, when it's densely detailed with characters in the background, they just won't have them that detailed and having this sort of faceless thing in the back. So not only is it stylistic in that it makes it feel more like an anime, but it helps us stay focused on the foreground, which is more important anyway, so it's less distracting, you know. Now we get to see so many expressive characters, and the designs are so fun. But there's something about Digimon designs that's really lacking from Pokemon, and that is, I'm gonna say, Digimon designs. Some of them have a weird sexual energy to them. They have these real husky daddies here. Probably a little bit too much sexual energy. And then they're not wearing clothes, so they're rocking. They rock out with their socks out, is all I'm gonna say. And that is one of the biggest differences, is that these designs just feel more mature. They're harsher and a little bit scary, and they're interesting. I really like Digimon designs. These indoor scenes are quite nice. They're framed nicely. This tells me that whoever is composing these scenes, whoever's framing them, they have a strong sense of cinematography, the way that they frame the characters, the lighting, the way that they place the light in a way where it creates interesting shadows. We have light areas here and then darker areas down towards the middle, and it's broken up by the characters that are all framed symmetrically here, and then three in the middle. It's just, but then they break up the monotonous symmetry by having two different coffee tables of different heights. We have the lower coffee tables and the higher coffee tables here, and a globe here, bookshelf here. So that breaks up the symmetry, which can, if you have too much symmetry, can make things quite dull. You have your circular coffee table here, and it just creates this very interesting composition of angles. We have our squares here that create these angles, and then it's offset by this round coffee table here. This is something that I would look at from a photographic standpoint and say, this is well composed. And I have a feeling the majority of the game, this is the kind of effort and thought that goes into these scenes. Anyone can just compose a scene, right? Anyone who lacks any experience, any idiot can build a scene using a game engine. They can just throw assets in together, and that's often what we see. What I see here from this trailer is not that. I see thoughtful composition, competent cinematography, especially when it comes to directing the cameras, the camera angles. A scene like this is gorgeous. The color choices here, we have the soft cyan and blue as it fades into the background. There's a haziness in the atmosphere that feels like there's this otherworldly fog. You see those elements fading softly into the background. Harsh. There's no harsh lighting here, but you do have these lights that add interest to the scene. They add visual dynamic. You have the sunlight coming through the trees here, casting this dappled light. Even the small patches of grass are catching the shadows, and you have the characters that all fit the scene. No one stands out and feels like their visual elements don't belong here. These characters feel like they belong in this world, not just aesthetically, but thematically, based on their designs. You have these vines coming through here, giving this sense that these little wisps of light, they almost look like they're sort of light fixtures. You have the younger Digimon and then the bigger Digimon there. You have so many of these small elements just floating around, making the scene feel alive. It's the smallest amount of animation like that, movement, that makes the world feel alive and lived in. And it's interesting that they frame this, or they compose this in such a way to where we see this dull grayness of the human world, and then all of a sudden we see this rich gorgeous, vibrant colors of the digital world, and it lets us know immediately, immediately what world you are in. Obviously, this is our world. It has our human technology. The Digimon world has this, it has a flair and a vibrance to their technology, and our technology is quite dull, so you can tell straight away. There's use of a visual technique called bloom, where bright pixels intersect with dark pixels, and there's a halo that produces a softness that allows them to blend. It seems you'll be able to ride on your Digimon, which is nice. But it also, I think, leans into the fact that some Digimon are just sexually charged to a little bit of an uncomfortable degree, and you get to ride on your Digimon that have just too much sexual energy. And I think that's funny. I think that's hilarious. I do like this effect on the heads-up display. We've seen this in other games as well, but I do like this here. We'll just pause it here. You can see that these windows actually create a blurring effect for the visuals behind it. So you can still see your Digimon's visuals here, but behind these windows, that's blurred out a little. I like that effect. It's a neat little thing. I think I'm admiring this a little bit too much now, as I'm only just rewatching this. I love this. I grew up with the Digivice here, and I could talk about it more in another video, but this hit me right in my nostalgia kidneys. And it makes me just want to purchase this. They know how to hit you in the nostalgia kidney. So you have your eggs here, and we see a scene where you get to create your farm, you get to customize your digital farm, and your Digimon get to wander around and train while you're doing other things. You can see this cool little galactic sky. It looks like there's some meat cooking here. Something that always kind of gives me dread in Pokemon games is when I see characters in Pokemon eating meat. Where did they get the meat from? What Pokemon am I eating? I don't know if that's the same situation with Digimon. I don't know if we eat other Digimon, or what's the situation here. I do like this stylized artwork again. The camera work, it's so expressive. The color choices, is the artists that are working on this absolutely understand texture, color, dynamic, and how to use light and dark to create a visually interesting scene. I just love this sort of 60s cubism look to this. You get to ride on your Digimon here, just quick cuts. This is a well put together trailer. This is quite exciting. I think not a lot of people have actually seen this. Of course, I'll put links to all the trailers here. So there isn't that much left to see in this trailer. Let's go ahead and hop over to the next trailer, which will be taking a look at the system. Okay, here we get to see a bit more of the characters and their environments. These cutscenes are so expressive, and they're framed in interesting ways. We get to hear about the world being destroyed. This, again, we're having just as... I'm not going to tell these developers, I'm not going to tell the artists what to do. This is a lot of sexual energy, and this is a lot. That's all I'm going to say. Obtaining Digimon, there's a bunch of... I still have a hard time grasping exactly how you obtain Digimon. I think maybe they said you can get the data and then you can generate them from data, but there's some organic aspect. I really love this heads-up display. It feels like a lived-in digital world, and that this digital world is coming to life, and you're interacting with it in an interesting way. I just dig that. I dig this heads-up display. You have something, some sort of gem that exists in that world there, and I sort of love that sort of... It feels like you're using that device in the world. I do like the pixel artwork. We get to see Patamon, the digital art, and then he or she is generated into a obtainable party member, and that's so great. These are just so expressive. I just really enjoy these designs. With the aesthetic, they're going for the anime look. It's people call it cell shading because that's just what we called it many years ago. This is using a form of ramp shader. We basically use a texture and we define how lighting is expressed. And for example, if you just had two colors, white and then black, that would define, that would make it look cell shaded. If we have a look at the ramp shader, it looks like we have three tones here. We have your there isn't really a highlight. There's your mid-tone, a darker mid-tone, and then your shadows. So three tones on that ramp shader. Ramp shaders can still receive halo effects and things like that that we see. They can receive more advanced complex lighting. Now this is interesting. I really like these visuals. It makes it feel like hand-drawn art. It makes it feel like the anime, but there's still a degree of specularity. From what I've seen, there does not seem to be any physically based rendering shading in terms of picking up complex reflections and real-time reflections from the world around it. That has a higher performance cost. That tends to cause the frame rate to drop because it's more complex. I'm not seeing that, but I do really like how we have the drill expressed here with some specularity and the ramp shader just there. So that looks quite nice. I really like that. This guy's, he's a fun little fella. It looks like there's a lot we can do in terms of teaching your Digimon skills, new attacks when it comes to stat growth. If you are into RPGs and monster raising, this is basically the perfect series. It's the perfect game. It's got everything you want. It's got visuals that are coherent and in line with modern expectations when it comes to using modern technology to its fullest to create an expressive and frankly beautiful environment. This game looks beautiful. I will say that. This guy has way too much sexual energy. He's got these big rippling muscles. Rock out with your sock out, man. There's no need for pants here for Firemon. No, I know it's Miramon. I know. I'm acting like I'm somebody's uncle pretending to not know what a Digimon is. There's too much sexual energy. This is so much. What is going on here? I'm sorry, it's my first time seeing that guy. I'm just getting, it's like a little bit of a shock here. I suppose I'm a little bit conservative when it comes to that kind of thing. Some of these guys they're taking it a little too... Oh! So this one gets pants. This man, who has an eye covering, so he doesn't get to see. He's blindfolded. He's got a leather belt around his neck, leather belt around his arms, leather belt on his legs, but this one gets pants. So why doesn't this handsome man get to rock out with his socks out? Can someone explain that to me in the comments? Why this handsome man gets to have pants and the others don't? Is there a rule? I'm a little bit out of the loop. I do really enjoy Digimon. I haven't played a number of the recent games. I've missed out, but why does this one get pants? So we see a little bit of the Digi farm here where you get to customize that and your Digimon can train. There's a lot going on here. If you love getting into the thick of it with complex, deep character customization, monster growth, look at all this. This is just for your agent. This is just for you. That's for your skills. So you have your own degree of leveling up, customizing. Let's take a look at the battles a little bit. These environments are just fantastic. He uses Rock Smash to break that open. I know it's not Pokemon. Okay. This guy's tatted up. You met this guy at a dive bar down the street, and he just decided to follow you home. This guy, leather belt across the chest, leather belt on his hand here, and no pants. He's got big feet, big hands, and no pants. We got a Lego lawsuit over here. All I'm saying is, can we have some consistency with the pants on or pants off? I'm getting derailed here a little bit. Of course, there's data types and elements as well. So Pokemon has its type chart. There are attributes and elements. So there is that degree of complexity as well. So if you're interested in battle systems that do rely on that, I mean, that is great. Now, unfortunately, what Digimon lacks is a highly accessible cartoon where the cartoon teaches people about type matchups. there was a lot of that, which is one of Pokemon's strengths, is people learn type matchups through the show, except for when they lie and they show that Pikachu can damage a ground type Pokemon, so that sort of situation. This is fun, using your Digimon there to traverse and swing across some areas. That's pretty neat. You got Mega Beedrill over here, which is just in time because we're getting Pokemon Legends ZA, so it's good to see Mega Beedrill again, so I'm really glad to see that. You see strong use of Bloom. This is great. You know, these visual effects are very interesting to look at. Something I notice is that the Digimon do have a black outline, so it does have that hand-drawn look. That black outline does help sell that a little bit. The expressions, the eyes, they're expressive. This is adorable. Look at this. He summoned a little pool of water. Little fishies jump. Oh, we paused it at the right time. Look at this adorable little guy. It makes me laugh. I'm sorry, I was caught off guard. Look at our adorable little friend here. He's so cute. I'm sorry. I can compose myself here. This is more adorable than I thought it was going to be. Look at this. Look at his little face. Look at this cute little guy. You're never going to catch that detail in game, but that is adorable. Look at him. Oh, he took down Mega Beedrill Quicksmart with that move. Looks like you can have 4 party members. I love how alive this UI is. I'm just gonna get out of the way here for a second. And you can see even a small animation like this, the rotation on the UI, something like that is quite lively. I do like this Final Fantasy X style order list where you can see in which order your Digimon and your other combatants, the enemies, what order they'll be in. And even at night, you see that the lighting is quite expressive as well. They're casting shadows even though it's nighttime. That was cool. That was his cell phone turned into a gun. God, if my cell phone could turn into a gun, I tell you. So something that we've seen in Legends ZA is at nighttime, in general, you don't see characters casting shadows. So it looks quite flat to me personally at night. But then you see a scene like this, which is comparable to what we see in Legends ZA, and the characters are still casting shadows, and it helps things feel interesting. You have that real-time lightning, and it just makes the scene feel alive. This is visually so satisfying to look at. The artists that created this game, they absolutely know what they're doing. They've done a brilliant job. So that's it. Just taking a look at these trailers now. What I will do is just pull out some scenes from one of the longer trailers, and I will just share some scenes that I found interesting, discuss them, and I'll put the links to the trailers and the longer gameplay session. So I recommend watching the half-hour one. It's really cool. Okay, let's take a look. All right, so we will first move our timestamp to 2:57. You see the characters leave the human world for the first time, come to the digital world, and it's just vibrant and interesting. And the characters, you see the characters' expression, and you see these Digimon are animated in such a lively way, and it looks like they're interacting with their world. They're interacting with each other. We have this too much sexual energy, thick walrus daddy over here, which is just, it's a little too much for me. But that's fine. If that's the ship you're going to sail on, go for it, man. 2:57 is where I want to move the timestamp. You got this fun Kappa-based character who's got his beats by whoever does beats. He's selling TMs, which is pretty cool. But what I really like here is this small expressive scene that we're going to see as we enter this little living space. And this is so telling to me that the people that created this are very strong artists who absolutely understand how to use a development environment to create expressive scenes using the development environment to their fullest. What we have here is a fixed camera angle, which makes things feel more cinematic, and they understand this is the best way to frame this. If this were Pokemon, they would have framed it overhead, and it would have looked like a 2D game, and it would have looked very flat. And Pokemon indoor scenes have, in 3D, again, I'm not being mean or insulting because I'm a huge fan of Pokemon. The the aesthetic and the art and the visual direction of Pokemon games in 3D are extremely weak. They're just not. It would be nice if they had artists who specialized in certain fields so that we can have more expressive scenes in Pokemon, especially when it comes to the indoor areas. They would have framed it overhead like a 2D game and it would have been very flat and lifeless. Something like this is full of life. It's a lower camera angle, which already makes us feel closer to the characters in the scene when it comes to an intimate level. It feels like we're in that environment with them rather just watching from above. We have volumetric lighting, which allows these gorgeous light shafts to pour in, and it feels like this is a warm, dusty place. We have a swinging hammock. We have a fan just breezing through there. We have a Digimon, which is in the fridge, and I think we're going to eat that later, so we're going to save that Digimon for later. And then we actually have just a very minute amount of movement on the leaves here, and it's not much, obviously, because there's no major source of airflow, but we do have a fan here, which probably indicates that there is some airflow and the gently moving leaves here. What I really like are these plants here that seem to intertwine with the environment, helping the environment feel alive. It feels organic despite having this cold metal structure. We have life all throughout it. Now this green square, I'm not sure if that means anything, but it actually really adds to the composition of the screen. If that were not there, this part of the scene would actually look quite dull, just texturally and in terms of color, but it balances out the scene because we have green present all throughout, breaking up the monotony of the gray and the brown, and then we have green here to continue balancing that. A green fridge. Oh wow. Wow. I am looking at this scene again, and then I have to applaud whoever did this, because there is a display of an extremely high level of competence when it comes to composition and framing, a textural understanding, composition and use of color, and balancing out the color tones. Oh, I'm in awe. This displays an extremely high level of competence when it comes to art, and I have never seen a scene like this in the 3D Pokemon games when it comes to exhibiting this degree of artistic comprehension and expression and ability to compose a scene. I've rattled on for too long, but I'm really, really impressed just seeing that scene. And it's so simple, but it looks like the entire game is consistent. This is just the level of artistry that's gone into this. I'm suddenly very, very interested in this game. There's a degree of hand-drawn elements on the textures of the character that again helps them have a hand-drawn feel, because a degree of elements on their visuals are hand-drawn. It helps it feel like the anime. The characters look like they're anime, it has a black outline. This guy needs some pants, please. There's too much leather and not enough pants is all I'm saying. Do I sound like a stick in the mud? Do I sound like a fuddy-duddy who can't handle a muscular dad covered in leather belts and no pants? Maybe so. Maybe so. We're at 411 here. And I just really... little swirl on his feet. That's adorable. Okay, this dad has too much... This dad has too much sexual energy. But he is wearing pants. So why does this dad get to wear pants and the other dad doesn't get to wear pants? Can anyone tell me? Please, I have to know, because this leather belt right here. You know what? You've put so much leather on this dude, on this dad. Just put some metal rings on his nips. You've walked the 9 miles, go the full 10, put some metal rings on this dude's nips, because he's already taken it too far. I'm sure those pants are leather. I've derailed. I'm melting down. I think I'm having a meltdown in real time here. What I wanted to say was I really like how the Digimon follow you around. It looks like your whole team is there, and this guy just creeps me out. This doesn't, I don't feel good. Are these, are those arteries or veins? And why is one of them disconnected? I don't like it. It grosses me out, and I love it. It's great. It's perfect. I would like a little bit more pulsating. Ooh, but he does have some, it looks like there's like the color is pulsating, but I would like a little bit more throbbing on his brain. His brain muscles there, I think, would be pretty cool. We're climbing up a ladder. You would be shocked. From a developer standpoint, you would be shocked, actually, how complex and complicated it is to create ladders and then create a climbing animation where things remain perfectly synced up. From a development standpoint, you would be shocked at how much work this takes. That is not as simple as you think it is, having the legs line up and the hands line up. It's more work than you think it is. And it's annoying, is all I'm going to say. We do have full transparency. This is not screen door, which means all of the Digimon are able to turn all kinds of gradients when it comes to transparency. And so that does have a performance cost on Switch and Switch 2. We generally see games use screen door transparency, which has less of a rendering cost. But I think when it comes to Legend of Zelda, they use full transparency. They don't use screen door. Okay, let's go ahead and move up to 527. There is a scene here. This is something that I hope I don't dwell on this too much, because I was very much admiring this scene. But this feels lived in. Going through these little narrow streets, we have Digimon that are sort of lazing around, just having a nap, sleeping one off. And this world feels lived in. It's grungy because we see rust and dirt. We see imperfections in the paint, where paint has peeled. This feels like a world that is lived in. Look, we have imperfections in the paint. And it's something that's missing from the 3D Pokemon games. Everything just feels pristine and fake. It feels like everything was just a computer graphic that was generated. And this scene, this makes the whole game for me. If I were to only see one thing about this game, and it was this, I would want to buy the game based on this one scene. Here we have a soft haziness around the room using volumetric lighting. It's dense, thick volumetric lighting, so that these light sources are able to actually depict a sense of dustiness. There's a warmness and a heaviness to the atmosphere in here. And the characters, there's no characters that are just idling and standing around in a basic animation. If this were Pokemon, they would all be in their standard basic stiff, just standing there waiting for you to talk to them because they are an NPC. Functionally, that's all they are. They exist only for the player to talk to. That is not what this scene feels like. This feels like all of these characters are just living their own lives and they're going about their day. And I just love this. We have the cold light pouring in from outside as it's filtered in through a window, and you can see the haziness reach in there. You have that contrasting with the dynamic of the softer lights. You have these halogen lamps that are just bringing balance to this scene. So you have cold light on the right, warm light on the left, and it makes this just feel so alive. The environment feels tangible and rich. You have this fun little dude, his eyes are illuminated. You have this guy rocking out with his socks out. And you have an overhead fan that's just sort of swinging gently overhead. So not only is there to animate is to bring life to something, there is a sense of liveliness, because not only is there movement here, there's movement up here as well. And we have a dynamic fixed camera angle, which is something that we saw a little bit in games like Pokemon Black and White, but we don't see it in the modern 3D games, which means Game Freak doesn't have anyone on their team that specializes in cinematography. But it's a fixed camera angle that follows the character from behind in a way where whoever's composing this scene, the director of photography, absolutely knows this is going to look interesting as we traverse this scene. We know where the player is going to traverse. Now, how do you make that look interesting? And that this scene tells me that they've considered that. When I see Pokemon games, I do not see that consideration. There is a lack of consideration in the 3D Pokemon games when it comes to how will this scene look interesting to the player. We have shelves and walls that are adorned with items that break up the monotony. There is a visual philosophy that I refer to personally as breaking the line. When you have a scene that's just a horizon, you have the land and the sky, you have a horizontal line, it's dull. You need to break that line in order to make the scene look interesting. Here we have this sort of cork board that could be boring, but you can see they've broken that line by having other visual elements break the line. You have the shelf here. If the shelf were empty, it would look dull because it just consists of straight lines. They've broken that line. They've broken all these lines by having light fixtures that drop down. You see a shelf here that's just a boring line. They've broken that line by adding light fixtures that hang down. You have lines here on these vents, and they've broken that line by having this paper poster here, by having that pipe come down. This to me tells me these are extremely strong artists that have been doing this for a very long time. They have a strong sense for what looks good, and you cannot teach that. That is something that someone develops through their lifetime, through their life experiences. They learn to understand what looks good, and they have a sense for it. It's almost impossible to teach that. You need lived experience to really understand that on a deeper level, and then to create scenes from your imagination. It is not something that AI can do. AI can fake that because it's fed data, but it cannot truly understand, and it cannot truly create something new. This scene, I think I've gone on too far, but this scene is just gorgeous. You have light coming through the fan here, the volumetric lighting casting these somewhat intimidating light rays as the fan blade slowly spins, casting these dominating shadows that dance across the scene, that keep the scene alive and moving. This is brilliant, and this is something you never see in the Pokemon games. The artists in Pokemon, in Game Freak, still don't really have a strong grasp over how to use light and shadow to express, how to create an interesting scene. I hope I'm not sounding mean here. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Game Freak. They are my contemporaries in the games industry, but they still have a lot of room to grow and develop, and I really think they need more team members. They need to bring on more team members who have experience and expertise like this. Now, this guy gets to wear a loincloth. Other Digimon don't get to wear a loincloth. Hold on. We have Garurumon, but he gets to have pants. This guy gets a loincloth. But the Miramon in the other room was rocking out with his socks out. Why? I don't know why I'm getting hung up on this. I don't know why, and I think I've gone on for too long. I need to understand. I need to know. So, battles transition into a separate battlefield in Pokemon. We've seen, oh, we're battling in the overworld. We're not transitioning to a different world. That's fine. I prefer this. I prefer battles take place on a separate plane, and that is because the separate plane allows the developers to create dynamic scripted camera angles, and it doesn't have to worry about clipping through geometry or bumping into geometry. And this keeps battles looking fresh and interesting. So I really prefer that. I actually like this. There was a time where people said, oh, this is old-fashioned. Oh, I want a battle without a transition. Why? Why? Because what happens is when we have battles that occur without transitions, you basically pigeonhole yourself out of having scripted camera angles, and you have battles where the camera just sits overhead a little bit. The player gets to move the camera around, but battles feel so lifeless and dull to me. This feels so dynamic and punchy and dramatic and vibrant because the camera angle moves to show you the best angle for action. It moves around, it dollies, it pans, it zooms in and out. It's so interesting. And this, to me, tells me, yeah, the people working on this, they have a strong sense for cinematography. Okay, and we have 20. I think I'm running towards the end of my notes here. And again, even at night, I touched on this a bit, but the dynamic lighting still casts shadows in an interesting way, even though it's nighttime and it's dark. We have procedurally generated clouds. This is not a fixed texture. A fixed static texture cannot animate. It cannot generate different looks in real life. Say, for example, in Scarlet and Violet, we only had static clouds that just rotated. It was very basic. It feels very basic. But these are procedurally generated. So you can see they can receive some lighting, and they have unique shapes that change over time. This is interesting. It's interesting to look at. And to me, it tells me the developers have a strong sense of how to use modern development environments and modern technology. These are so cool. These animations, they're kick-ass, is all I'm going to say. Anyway, thanks very much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that this has been interesting to you. I think this looks fantastic. I'm very interested in this. So huge thank you again to Jeff Barroso. Thank you very much for recommending this. Otherwise, I think I would have missed this. I'm going to pick this game up when I can. I don't have a lot of time to play games. I'm very busy with my own game development work. So if you've enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments if there's any other topics that you would like. Let me know what you thought of this game, because I think this looks so cool. This is really fantastic. People have asked me to set up the memberships or whatever they're called on YouTube so they can support my channel more. I don't understand that. I'm gonna look into that and try and set that up. Channel memberships, I don't understand it. I'll look it up. People ask me about that. If you would like to support me on the channel here, you can head over to my Patreon. You can contribute there. I create game assets that people can download, and I'll try to think of more cool things that I can bring to Patreon supporters as well. But you can support me there. And your contributions, they allow me to spend more time working on these videos. I have to prioritize developing my games, but I would like to spend more time just making cool videos, and I want to take more requests from people and cover topics that you've asked for. So you can support me over on Patreon. I'll put the link in the description there. I'll try to set up channel memberships. And if you'd like to check out my games, I have stuff on. I mean, I don't like bragging about my games. It just feels, I don't know. I hate bragging about stuff that I've done. People ask me to talk about it more. I can talk about it more. I've got a bunch of games on. I've done games on 3DS, Wii U. You can't buy those anymore, but you can pick up the games on Switch. I'm bringing stuff to Steam soon and other platforms. Thanks, everyone. It's been great hanging out. I'm really looking forward to this. I'll see you around. All right. Take care. And for Pete's sake, put some pants on. Please, just put some pants on if you're going to leave the house.